You check your phone before you check your feelings. Balance, $340. Payday was 6 days ago. You didn't buy a boat. You didn't buy a Rolex. You bought coffee, gas, a birthday gift for someone you don't even like that much, and somehow the number still went sideways. That's not bad luck. That's lifestyle inflation, and it's been quietly redecorating your bank account since the day you got your first raise. Here's the mechanic nobody explains. Every time your income goes up, your comfort threshold sneaks up right behind it, silent, like a roommate who moves in one toothbrush at a time. You used to think a $12 lunch was a splurge. Now it's Tuesday. The raise didn't fail you. You upgraded your problems to match it. Think of income like water pressure and your spending habits like a leaky hose. Doesn't matter how hard you crank the tap. If the leaks scale with the pressure, the bucket stays empty. Always. Let's put numbers on it. Say you get a $500 a month raise. Sounds like freedom, right? But your rent creeps up $150 because now you deserve the apartment with in-unit laundry. Add $100 for the gym membership you'll use 4 times. Another $150 evaporates into small upgrades, better headphones, a nicer car payment, subscriptions you forgot you're paying for twice. Congratulations, you just gave yourself a raise and remained exactly as broke as before, just with better sound quality. The financial industry has a name for people who never let their spending catch up to their income. They call them wealthy. Everyone else just calls them cheap, right up until they own the building. You're not broke because you don't make enough. You're broke because your bank account has the memory of a goldfish and the ambition of a raise-chasing hamster wheel. Budgeting. Budgeting sounds like punishment because somewhere along the way it got marketed like a diet. All restriction, no dessert. But a budget isn't a cage, it's a map that tells your money where to go before it wanders off and gets itself into trouble. The financial equivalent of a toddler left alone in a Target. There are only really 2 philosophies here, and every app, spreadsheet, and finance influencer is just remixing them. First, the percentage method. Needs, wants, savings, sliced up like a pizza nobody agreed on the toppings for. Second, zero-based budgeting, where every single dollar gets a job before the month starts, so nothing's left unemployed and drifting toward a late-night impulse buy. Both work. Neither works if you don't actually look at the number. Here's the metaphor. Your paycheck is a bus, and your expenses are passengers. If you don't assign seats in advance, the loudest, most obnoxious expense, looking at you, DoorDash, takes the front row every single time, and rent stuck standing in the aisle wondering what happened. Let's run the math. You bring home $3,200 a month. Rent's $1,200. Utilities, groceries, insurance, call it $900. That leaves $1,100. Sounds like plenty, right? Except $300 of that quietly disappears into subscriptions, delivery fees, and just this once purchases that happen roughly 40 times a month. Without a budget, that same $1,100 becomes $400 toward debt, $400 toward savings, and $300 you're actually allowed to blow guilt-free, because permission is the entire trick. A budget doesn't tell you no. It tells you exactly when you're allowed to say yes, which is the closest thing broke people have to a superpower, and rich people call it cash flow management. That superpower means nothing, though, if half your paycheck's already spoken for before it lands. Which brings us to debt. You swipe the card at checkout, and for one glorious second, the burrito is free. It isn't, obviously, nothing is, but your brain doesn't process future money the same way it processes money leaving right now. That gap, that little lie your nervous system tells itself, is the entire business model of consumer debt. Debt, at its core, is just borrowed time dressed up as borrowed money. You're taking spending power from your future self, who did not agree to this and who is going to be furious in about 6 weeks when the bill shows up with a +1 called interest. There are 2 flavors worth knowing: good debt, a mortgage, a student loan, something that theoretically grows in value or earning power over time, and bad debt, credit cards, payday loans, financing a couch you'll have thrown out before it's paid off. One builds you a ladder, the other builds you a treadmill. Here's the physical version. Imagine debt as a bathtub with the drain half closed. Interest is water still running from the faucet even after you've stopped adding bubbles. You can stop spending entirely and the tub still fills, just slower. That's the part people miss. Debt doesn't wait for you to stop being irresponsible before it keeps charging you for existing. Numbers, because vibes don't pay creditors. Say you carry $2,000 on a credit card at 24% APR and you only make minimum payments, roughly $50 a month. At that pace, it takes you almost 9 years to pay it off, and you hand the bank an extra $2,300-ish in interest. Your $2,000 burrito tab basically doubles just for the privilege of not thinking about it in the moment. That's not a purchase. That's a subscription to regret with really good customer service. The credit card company isn't rooting for you to pay it off fast. Minimum payments exist because barely surviving is their favorite customer type. Loyal, predictable, and perpetually one fee away from funding someone else's yacht. Debt doesn't care about your intentions. It only cares about your due date, which is exactly the kind of relationship your credit score has been quietly grading you on this whole time. You've never met your credit score, but it's met every version of you. The one who paid rent late in college, the one who opened a store card for 15% off a hoodie, the one who closed an old account thinking that was responsible. It watched all of it, took notes, and turned you into a 3-digit number that decides whether you get an apartment, a car, or a rate that doesn't feel like a punishment. Here's the concept nobody explains cleanly. Your credit score isn't a measure of how much money you have. It's a measure of how predictable you are with debt. Broke people with perfect payment histories can outscore rich people who pay late. The system doesn't care about your net worth. It cares about your track record. It's built from a few ingredients: payment history, the biggest slice, roughly 35%, credit utilization, how much of your available credit you're actually using, another huge chunk, then length of credit history, credit mix, and new credit inquiries filling out the rest. Think of your credit score like a reputation at a bar you've never physically visited. The bartender, the lender, doesn't know you. All they've got is a logbook other bartenders filled out about your tab closing habits. Show up, run a tab, pay it off on time every time, and your reputation grows, even if you never once flash a big bankroll. Numbers time. Say you've got a $5,000 credit limit and you're carrying a $4,200 balance. That's 84% utilization, and to a lender, that number screams financially drowning, even if you've never missed a single payment. Drop that balance to $500, suddenly you're at 10% utilization, and the same lender reads that as calm, controlled, trustworthy human being. Same person, same income, same intentions, completely different story told entirely by a percentage.